A wonderful reflection morning to everyone. I am Commander Marlon Di Pero. I am loyal, brave, and true. And together with Mulan, we will bring honor to our country. This time, let's move on to the distribution of grades and guidelines or effective grading. Now, how should grades be distributed? It is commonly said from the teacher that what's given by the students will be only recorded, of course, by the teacher. The norm reference and criterion reference distribution of grades have been in practice for several years now. In norm reference systems, students are evaluated in relationship to one another. Example, the top 10% of students receive an A, the next 30 a B, or etc. This grading system rests on the assumption that the level of student performance will not vary much from class to class. The norm reference or relative have ranked the students' distribution is a big issue because of the following consideration. First, normal curve is defensible only when we have a large and selected group. It is often chaotic when a practitioner encounters this. The crux is that a person cannot stay on track while trying to figure out the variation among people. Due to a number of individuals, sometimes it would take a less authority to capture its proficiency, which would result in a learning curve bias. Anyway, grading on a curve is a practice used by teachers to determine student grades for assignments and or exams, where grades are adjusted to reflect the professor's desired distribution of scores, also known as normal distribution. It can be done in a variety of ways, though typically a teacher examines the raw grades that all his or her students receive from an assignment or exam and adjusts all the grades relative to each other. Next, when grading on the curve, school staff should set fair ranges of grades for different groups and courses. Students have different levels of intellectual aplomb and capability, so it seems exasperating to encounter such practices when, in fact, they should be based on the accurate output of a child. This notion will not help the learners to progress since the institution only bases its decisions on the same standardized scores that are given to the students. However, there will be a sense of increased competitiveness among students and unfairness. Next, when grading on the curve, any pass-fail decision should be based on an absolute standard. Example, failed the minimum essentials. And the last one, standards and ranges should be understood and followed by all teachers. Without any evaluation used by the teacher for the specific performance, it might cause some dilemmas that the teacher will catch in these norms. On the other hand, the criterion reference for absolute or have assessed absolute levels of knowledge grading system is not an issue because A. It seldom uses letter grades alone. B. It often includes checklist of what had been mastered. C. The distribution of grades is not predetermined. Now, in this criterion reference, it is pivotal to inculcate in the teacher the essentials of making this notion real in the field of teaching. Most tests and quizzes that are written by school teachers can be considered criteria reference tests, where it assesses the specific knowledge and skills students have most likely learned in order to determine how close a student is to mastering a specific standard. Also, this measures the performance of the students alongside fixed criteria. These criteria include written and brief reports of what students are capable of doing at different stages. And now, let's proceed to the guidelines for effective grading. The purpose of a grading system is to give feedback to students so they can take charge of their learning and to provide information to all who support these students, educators, parents, and others. The following guidelines for effective grading and reporting are recommended for use in Philippine schools. A. Describe grading procedures to students at the beginning of instruction. Just like us, our professors usually describe the grading procedure at the beginning of instruction, which is important. This can lead a student to take charge of their learning and utilize their participation in the learning environment. Next, clarify the quartz grade will be based on achievement only. Third, explain how other factors, effort, work habits, or etc. will be reported. And yeah, we are all thirsty to that. Next, relate grading procedures to intended learning outcomes. And this ensures consistency and fairness in the assessment of learning and in the assignment of scores and proficiency levels against the same learning standards. Next, obtain valid evidence, or should I say tests or etc. for assigning grades. Valid evidence of student output should always be obtained by the teacher before assigning grades. It doesn't just involve assigning grades based on what the teacher can remember about what the child has done or performed. It should be reliable evidence such as the test results I mentioned earlier. Next, prevent cheating. Now, we often hear this line from our teachers, especially when there is an ongoing examination. When you cheat, you're claiming that you are doing that required work even though you're not doing it. That's inherently dishonest. Your teachers expect the work you turn in to be the result of your own effort when it's not, and you see it is. That's lying, and that should be prevented. Next, record and review test results as soon as possible. This will show both teachers and students what they should have done. The results are perhaps a reflection of how efficient the teacher might be. It could also show how the learner's motivation manifested itself throughout the whole learning process. Next, properly weight the various types of achievements included in the grade. So think that it should be appropriate to the student's performance. Next, did not lower an achievement grade for tardiness or absences, weak effort, or misbehavior. Each student has the potential to excel in school, and we have the so-called multiple intelligences possessed by them. Hence, we don't have to focus only on that specific performance of a child, but instead focus on what the students are good at to give them achievement. Lastly, be fair, avoid bias. When in doubt, review the evidence. If still in doubt, give the higher grade. In order for us to be effective more, we have to be fair with facilitating the performance of the students. It is for the sake of a meaningful and harmonious learning environment. Taking everything into account, as teacher, our wisdom and teaching philosophy have the power to recalibrate norms into what's appropriate according to the child. When we strive harder to become better teachers than we are, everyone in our classroom becomes better too. This is according to Robert Chen Meehan. And that would be all for my discussion. Thank you for listening.